to be performing, and in the back of your mind, all that's going off is, do we have the budget sorted for tomorrow? What are we going to do? And you know, I think it's one of those things where I hope that in the future on YouTube and stuff, you know, with budgets and with this kind of stuff becoming more accessible, we can start to make that kind of stuff, you know, run more smoothly. But
also, you're balancing not just like director Tim and producer Tim, but you're like also friend Tim as well. And what we've all become, like we're surrounded by a kind of a group of mates who we make stuff with, and we're all getting better and better at knowing when to be professional and when to be mates. And you know, when you arrive on set, it has to be like a proper TV or film set. And you kind of have to, you know, friendships go out the window, and you know, as Jack said, you've got, you know, people who are above you and people who are below you, because that's how sets function most effectively. And that can be quite hard. We've got better, I think, haven't we?
Go on, Tom. So I wasn't really involved too much in the production of Project Library, which meant that I didn't learn these skills. I still, as a person, struggle with this balance. I live with Jack and Kieran, who shot the whole thing, and Dan, who arguably started it. And yeah, it's really about Jack, isn't it? Though, let's be real. But
that was an accidental thing.
And so, but I live with these 3 people. But in reality, I think I like to think that I live with 9 people. I live with 3 friends, 3 housemates, and 3 colleagues, and I'm abysmal at managing these 9 relationships. I never know which I'm supposed to be. You put me on set, I don't change. I'm still the same person.
Doesn't change clothes or anything?
No, I'm in my pajamas a lot, and I sleep naked. It makes for great work. No, it's something that I really wish I'd learned. I should have been more involved in the production. I genuinely didn't like really want to come on set for Project Library too much, because I don't know how to shut up in any way, and I was afraid that if I came on set, I would backseat direct way too much and step on people's toes. I was like, I'm gonna leave them to it. And
although you were pretty good when you were acting, like you were pretty.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice to be one person. Like
yeah.
that was pretty much the only other time I've been on a set and just been one person, and I had to do this like American accent.
You fucking nailed it.
It took me so long though. I was like it was only like it was like one take where I really felt.
Should we have some fun, like a little kind of stories about, like, okay, so the scene that Tom was in, the Vietnam scene, was shot in someone's back garden as a shed. The shed was the thing, that was the hut, and also the reverse shot of it was in a woods somewhere else. And Kieran, being the genius that he is, was able to like light it the exact same way, so that literally the shot over Tom's shoulder and the shot in front of Tom, 2 completely different locations.
About 20 miles apart.
yeah, and these are the moments when, as sort of, I guess, the main force behind the project, you have to look everyone in the eyes and say, trust me, this is going to work.
We're going to put cracks on a shed and it's going to look like Vietnam.
Because like, Tim, we're in someone's backyard. There's a trampoline in the background. How are you going to make it look like Vietnam?
The back garden was actually the back garden of Michael Foster's actual house. The way we shot the house stuff for Michael Foster in the bathroom in his bedroom. The back garden was where we shot Vietnam. It's so strange how small all this stuff is. I'm going to ruin it for you now.
So I also, when we were shooting that scene, I almost lost my shit with Tim, because you know, there we are, we're in this forest, like in this like I think privately kind of government owned or whatever it is, like forest which is patrolled by police, and we're shooting these scenes, and like I brought my guns. And that's an expensive hoard of weaponry, and like, these are prop guns and all, and we're like, you know, like, okay, everyone's holding these guns, and then the cops show up, because turns out that this forest, good job checking, is responsible for satanic cult rituals.
How do you go about checking that though?
How the hell do we Google that?
So the cops show up, and they're like, so what are you guys doing? Like, oh, we're filming a war scene.
For a student film.
For a student film, same as a student film, you know, with anything. But like, so they're like, I was shooting this war scene, and they're like, okay, so there's no guns, right? And I'm just like, no.
Meanwhile, someone's going over, like someone sneaks away and goes to a different part of the set and just like comes.
No. And not to a different part of the set. The cop is standing next to the fucking gun. Covered by a tarp, and like one of us, and I'm like eye signaling like anyone, like my eyes are wide to go like, Sometimes like they just stand in front of the guns until these cops leave, and it's like.
And they ended up being cool about it.
Yeah, they were nice.
Yes, because they didn't. Because they lied. Lied.
Do you have another question?
If you want, yeah. I've got a few. You've answered most, but hey, I'm just happy to let you guys babble, you know. Going back to what you were saying though about like the ongoing future of like long form web content and all that sort of stuff. Like Project Library, I'm right in saying, was reviewed by the Huffington Post.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's exciting. But like that sort of stuff, you know, these kind of things are getting more media coverage and stuff. Like, what do you think is the likelihood of it breaking into, like, being considered more sort of a mainstream media, and you know, the future of long form web content on its own? Like, do you think it has a standing in it by itself?
I hope so.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is I hope so. It being reviewed by the Huffington Post and stuff. The guy who wrote it was actually on set, wasn't he? He was on set for a few of the war room scenes.
Yeah.
And I hope it does. Like, it seems like since becoming YouTube, and you've had things like here like Freddie W's video game high school, which is outstanding. But his budget was so much higher than ours. And
Yeah, I mean, is there going to be a question about the budget? Because I feel like it's really worth talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
We're not allowed to legally say
Oh,
how much
no.
the whole thing cost, but each episode cost about $5,000. Do the math.
So kids.
Like £5,000.
Now,
That's $5,000.
That's about $8,000.
also, I should specify as well, and this is sort of a point where I kind of want to make clear how, for me, Project Library ended for me literally last week. Last week, I paid off the final bit of money that I owed people for Project Library. Now, part of
Was it worth it?
I'm no longer in debt. But that's the thing. You know, we went over budget, and you know, I think to make something like Project Library, you need to be a little bit ignorant and a little bit stubborn and a little bit like, we can do this, and I don't care if we don't have enough money, because otherwise you're never gonna push yourself in any way. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone push themselves as far as I did, because I took about 3 months to recover from Project Library, both emotionally and
Physically.
Yep.
You're actually 16, aren't you?
Yep. And I think it is. I think for instance that the budget thing there. It's so, you know, be careful when taking on board bigger projects, because you don't. You know, I was fortunate enough to. You know, I basically borrowed from my dad and then paid my dad back, because that way I had that kind of security of like, okay, the person I owe money is my dad, he's not going to kill me, hopefully. But you know, these are things that, you know, you should consider, and like I said, every project requires a little bit of gusto, but at the same time, you know.
It was strange how, like, because like for me, like my personal experience for making Project Library, I had I had a lot of responsibility, the same as Tim, but like Tim had more, and I was able to, for example, turn up on set and be the creative director, whereas Tim, in his head, was still trying to have to figure out all the budget stuff, and therefore like talking about it afterwards became like we just talked about it for ages. Whenever we hung out, it was like talking about library still. It was like still about the experience and everything. We kind of lost like being mates for ages, and then like it has only been like a month or so since we've been able to kind of just hang out and it not be a subject we talk about. So it does completely just take over. You can, like, if you look at the way that directors look when they're making bigger films, they always look like shit, because they're always just kind of, they're so ingrained in it that they're just, like Peter Jackson got fat again when he made The Hobbit. Like, you know why? Because he's had no other time to kind of like concentrate. And it's that idea that if you're going to go into making something big, prepare to kind of like fuck yourself up.
Also, we can just see Ali just entered the room. So Ali, who we were referring to earlier, helped a lot on Project Library and saved us during the week of the library. So round of applause for Ali.
It does sound like you guys have been learning a lot, obviously, from the whole thing. Like, what do you think you have brought on in preparation for next time, and is there going to be next time? Like, what's next for long-form content creators like yourselves?
Wow, okay. So for me, it's mostly from a writing point of view, and like, so when Tim brought the kind of like forms of scripts to Ben and myself, it was kind of already formed, and the layout was already there. We changed it around bits and bobs and stuff like that, but like the characters were already laid in, and the scenes were already kind of and everything was leading up to a certain point, and it was kind of already set in, and we kind of wrote the dialogue and stuff like that around it, and the story. But something I would learn from coming next is female characters. So this is something I wanted to bring up, and we've spoken about in like, personal conversations. Is my character Steve? If we were to make this again, if we were to remake Project Library, I would make Steve Stephanie. I would make it a woman because I think that would be a better thing to do. Because like in ours, we had so many writing sessions where we just talked about the character of Rachel.
I mean, the character of Rachel, which was kind of the only main like female character, was kind of massively underwritten. It was the main thing I wanted to fix with the script. But really, we talked of what would have happened if we'd made Troy a woman. How would that have changed things? Could it have been done? Would it have worked as well? Yeah, so we were also intrigued by that. I think I'd also like. I think what I would like to take forward is just the collaborative process, because I made all. Like I was coming towards the end of becoming YouTube when I started doing Project Library stuff. And I'd done it like pretty much on my own, bringing lots of people in to shoot for a day or to film with, but like the writing and the producing and the editing was all done by me. And it's now, with future scripts and things, I want to be able to send them like via Jack, via Tom, via Tim, just to get feedback if nothing else. That's something Bertie Gilbert started to do now. Before he makes his short films, he started to send them to us just
He has no
feedback.
patience though, does he?
No patience.
No patience at all.
He's young.
Yeah, bless him.
I want my notes now. 10 minutes ago. 20 minutes script. I hate Bertie. I'm glad he's not here too.
Tim.
He's glad he's not here.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with Jack on the female characters. I think the thing is, again, like, and again, I mean, as I explained earlier, Project Library was something that had been in our kind of collective memory for 3 years. So as a result, to some degree, you get attached to certain characters being a certain way because you've come up with these things, and then it becomes harder to change it. Whereas I think it is important to then, like, to have learned that discipline to basically look and think to yourself, can this character, be a woman, and can we not just go for the obvious option? Because it's true, like, I mean, we were discussing this earlier on the talk panel, in our collective pool of talent who we kind of have around us, a lot of them are men, and specifically white men. So as a result, I think I've definitely felt more aware of the responsibility